What is something you know because of your profession, which you believe everyone should know to make their lives better, easier, or healthier? Story 1: I'm a civil engineer, and I think everyone should know that yellow light time is dictated by the speed limit. For example, if the speed limit is 40 miles per hour, you have 4 seconds of yellow light time. You have 1 second of yellow light time for every 10 miles per hour. If the speed limit is 35 miles per hour, you have 5 seconds. I'm getting this question a lot, so I will answer. The 10-second rule is a general rule of thumb. Signals with red light cameras have less yellow light time. Some areas may have shorter traffic lights than this because they aren't functioning properly. In this case, it should be reported to your community's public works. Story 2: if you pay attention to your kids, they'll do better. The up you're doing, it is affecting them even if you don't realize it. Their teacher knows this. Story 3: I work in IT, and I can honestly say that by rebooting your device, you will fix most of the software-related faults that happen. If that doesn't work, then Googling the symptoms will more than likely give you a fix or avenue for a fix pretty quickly. Story 4: Americans, if you need help navigating a complicated government problem, call your representative at the local, state, or federal level. There are staff members standing by whose purpose is to perform constituent services. Many people think that their elected officials just sit up in the Capitol and don't realize they have Capitol and district staff whose whole purpose is to help people navigate through government problems. When I turned 18, I received a letter from the Social Security Administration that told me I owed $52,000 to Social Security because they had determined that my father was not disabled for the last 2 years of his life, and they had overpaid him. He spent the last 2 years of his life in the hospital and about 6 months in a coma, and he was apparently not disabled. I spent months trying to solve the problem on my own and was simply jerked around and treated like a criminal by Social Security. Finally, I got the idea to call my congressman and ask for help. Within a few weeks, I ended up getting an apology letter from the Social Security Administration saying they were wrong and I shouldn't have to pay for their mistake. That letter is in my baby book now. Story 5: I work at an interstate mountain tunnel in VA. Please, for the love of God, don't stop to take pictures. Yes, it is cool, but stopping like that has caused more accidents than anyone would believe. Story 6: I work in anatomical transplantation. Lungs of marijuana smokers and lungs of cigarette smokers look exactly the same. People who deny the fact that smoking weed isn't as detrimental to your lungs as smoking cigarettes are kidding themselves. If you ingest smoke, your lungs are going to suffer long-term damage, plain and simple. Just to clarify, some distinctions must be made. If you smoke 2 packs a day, your lungs will have considerable more damage than someone who smokes a joint once every other week. I am referring to habitual smokers with long-term use. Story 7: I work in theatrical lighting. It's pricier, but gaff tape is far superior to duct tape. Tears better, sticks better, looks better, doesn't leave that nasty residue. When you peel it off something, you can write on it in sharpest, so it's great for labeling. We use it to label lights, secure cables, basically anything you might need tape for. If you're running cable across the ground, use gaff tape to keep it in place. It's not waterproof, but other than that, it's the perfect tape. I love it. Since people are asking, my brand of choice is Pro Gaff, but to be honest, I haven't really shopped around. Every theater I've worked for so far has used Pro Gaff, and I've never had a problem with it. Story 8: get a third party to do inspections on homes or rentals before you move instead of who the retail agent or landlord will provide. That third-party inspector will be more honest about things that are faulty in the home rather than one that's contracted with the agency. Also, pay attention to services your town will provide and what community projects they're personally engaged in funding. This will affect your property taxes if you buy a home. Story 9: be a strong advocate for your health. Don't be afraid to talk with your doctor when you notice something that feels wrong to you, and don't be afraid to keep bugging people if you feel you aren't being heard. The medical field is full of people, and people make mistakes. Also, for women, especially those over 40, never skip a year for breast cancer screening, and if you have new symptoms, have it done again. Early detection really is a lifesaver. Story 10: a 70 ozone machine will permanently get rid of most smells in your home with just an hour of use. Pet, smoke, mold, and other smells will be completely removed. However, ozone is toxic to living things, so it cannot be used with people or pets present. Ozone does, however, have a relatively short half-life, and return of normal use to the room can begin as soon as an hour after the machine is turned off. Hotels often use ozone machines to remove smoke smells when someone smokes in a room. They often have large industrial-sized machines that only need to run for 15 minutes or so. The room will be fresh, smelling, and ready for the next guest with less than an hour turnaround time. If you get an ozone machine, please read the directions and warnings. There are several differing opinions on when a room could be used again, and I'm not an expert. I just happen to know they work, and most people don't know about them. So it fit the topic. Story 11, what is under your house counts. Before buying a home, talk to the city about the sewers and water drainage. Very old systems are sometimes still in use. And if the sewers haven't been upgraded in 100 years, you could have a very unpleasant surprise just down the road. Story 12, I work in the radio industry. Well, study to work in radio. You know those request shows? Yeah, those aren't real. They pick 1 to 2 requests per hour and then just fill the rest in themselves. Story 13, I'm not a teacher anymore, but I learn a lot from it. I wish every parent knew that as your child grows up, you need to be their parent, not their friend. They need to experience failures and consequences. They need to be held accountable by you for their actions. You can be friends with them when they're grown, well-adjusted, responsible adults. Story 14, people are usually nice to you if you're nice to them. If they're rude, I'm extra nice, smiling, and polite. It really makes them crazy annoyed. Seeing them boil really makes me happy. But also if random person is rude to me, I don't take it personally. The person doesn't know me and probably has had a bad day, weak life, and is only taking it on me. But also sometimes when I'm smiling, nice and polite, it makes the other person start smiling and have a better mood. That makes me happy too. Edit. Thank you, kind stranger, for the platinum. I didn't expect it at all. Story 15, just exercise, people. There is not a single medicine, cool clothing item, quick fix, whatever, that'll give you a healthier and better life than exercise, except for circumstances where you need a medicine to live. Even 20 minutes of walking a day can have profound effects on your health. It's not hard, just exercise. Edit, let me clarify a couple items. It's not hard is definitely not the correct choice of words. What would have been more appropriate is it's not always complicated or it's always possible to move. Also, move may have been a better overall term than exercise. My main point was that too many people often look for a pill, an injection, a miracle food, cool knee sleeve, whatever quick fix to remedy their problems when a lot of what's going on can be solved with movement. Joint pain, high blood pressure, overall happiness, etc. have all been proven via research to improve with movement exercise. The body is meant to move. So next time your knee flares up, don't rub lavender oil on it or immediately get a cortisone shot. Instead, go to physical therapy, learn how to move it appropriately, and take those lessons with you for life to keep yourself healthier. Any blanket statement that has ever been made will have exceptions. Story 16, life insurance applications are starting to use accelerated underwriting, which means they obtain you credit history, pharmacy records, education level, and other personal information to see if you qualify for the life insurance. Life insurance companies are starting to also use a network, which link the findings. So if you get denied by one company and try to get insurance with another, the second company can obtain certain assessment results from the first company. Story 17, don't play games with microtransactions. They're designed with the assistance of physiologists and psychologists to be as addicting as possible. Quality of gameplay is secondary to that. The new trend in game design, internally, in some companies has been coined dopamine-driven development in that the entire point of the user experience is to trigger the most micro-releases of dopamine to physically addict you to our game or app. I'm about ready to move off the grid. The world is... Story 18, I work in auto body collision repair. I am here to tell you that the size of a vehicle is only one piece of the puzzle in determining safety. Obviously, if you get hit by a semi, you're screwed no matter what size vehicle you are in. But I have seen a Honda Civic hatchback get creamed by a suburban Honda, was stopped at a stop sign. Suburban rear ended them going 60 miles per hour. The people in the hatchback walked out basically unharmed. This is only one example off the top of my head. Vehicles built after 06-08 started implementing advanced materials be used for points of impact trails body pillars. These advanced materials, think high-grade hardened steel, are extremely durable, do what they're supposed to do in terms of protecting the passengers from immediate harm. Also, a misconception about larger vehicles being safer is people think BI safe. But these larger vehicles are slower, less agile, have a longer stopping distance. If you're an attentive driver, you can more easily evade bad situations in a smaller, more agile vehicle. That is, if you have a decent reaction time, don't drive distracted. Short stopping distance has been a lifesaver for me. A few times in my lightweight, compact car, I have avoided multiple potential collisions with wildlife, dogs, surprise road blockages, unruly drivers. Don't forget that the taller a vehicle is, the more likely it is to tip over. I just want to let you know you have options if you need a larger vehicle for space. I totally understand, but larger vehicles are not safer as a rule of thumb. Story 19, the 3 most important things you can do to keep yourself safe during a house fire are super simple and very effective. 1. Have working smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors in your home. Also make sure that when you buy a smoke detector, it is a dual sensor type. Detectors can be ionization, which are good at detecting quick, flaming fires, photoelectric, which are good at detecting smoldering fires, or be a combination of both. Dual sensor detectors are slightly more expensive, but much more effective than a singular ionization or photoelectric detector. Make sure that smoke detectors are installed as high as possible in every bedroom and hallway. Carbon monoxide detectors should be installed with at least one on every level of the home. In addition, you should have a fire extinguisher easily accessible in the home. Even if you put the fire out, still contact the fire department so we can ensure it hasn't extended into the walls or ceiling. 2. Close every door you can when you're asleep or not at home. Even a thin wooden door can greatly slow down smoke and fire spread. One thing that was driven into my head in the fire academy was smoke is fuel. All it takes is the right mixture of oxygen and hydrocarbons to create fire. If you have a fire in your home and you cannot put it out yourself safely, that is, make sure you close as many doors behind you as possible while exiting the home. Teach children to shut their bedroom door if they cannot exit the house and to not hide under their bed or in their closet. They should try to stay in the open so it's easier for us to find them. Also teach them to make as much noise as possible. 3. Have a plan. Make sure you know where to meet family or other occupants of the home in the event of a fire. Talk to your kids about safe places to meet and make sure they know your home address to tell to the dispatcher. Have numbers available for your insurance and any family or friends you may have to stay with. Edit thank you for my first silver. Story 20, I work in health. Vaccinate yourself and children. Body positivity movement and thin privilege is ruining my back because myself and my workmates need to manually move you around on a stretcher. Eat healthy. Go to the gym. You'll live longer, feel better. Edit thanks fellow Redditors for the gold. Story 21, your belly button needs to be part of your cleansing routine in the shower. I'm an RN and have recently begun work in the OR. Anytime we have a patient getting incisions on their abdomen, we prep the belly button separately from the rest of the skin, and what I have learned from this is that a shocking amount of people have filthy belly buttons. I'm not talking a bit of lint. I'm talking amount of lint that takes 4 swabs to remove, rolls of dead skin so copious that I have to use gauze to get it out, actual stones pebbles of hardened detritus that I have to use tweezers to pick out. And this isn't on crazy obese people with a massive self-care deficit, either a good chunk of people with nasty navels or young and normal weight with 2 functioning arms. Clean YO belly button. It's why God gave you fingers. Story 22, I write smut for a living, and when people find out about it, they're generally very keen to open up about their own tastes. It's as though as soon as they realize they're probably not going to be judged for what they want, they're eager to talk about it with an actual human person. I constantly get asked how unusual certain fetishes are, and people always seem relieved when it turns out that what they think is a super shameful kink they have is actually pretty widespread, even if people keep it on the down low. In general, most people's kinks aren't all that weird. Occasionally, they're really weird. Even if it's really weird, as long as no one's getting hurt, it's probably okay. And there's probably someone out there who has it too. Story 23, pay attention to local politics in the U.S. This means state level, and for the love of God, vote in local elections. A lot of people can't even name who their state assembly people and state senators are, but state law sometimes has a bigger impact on your daily life than federal law. You can find your reps on openstates.org. Story 24, don't buy a house within 3 blocks of S-rail line, gas station, or industrial facility. Chronic exposure to low levels of industrial airborne pollutants causes cancer. Story 25, I work in health insurance in the U.S. Most people spend more time thinking about what they want for dinner than they do considering their options. If you are in a position where you actually get to choose your plan, actually take some time to consider those options. In most cases, lower premium means higher costs everywhere else. Think about how you use medical services. Do you keep on top of routine checkups and screenings? Do you take any medications on a regular basis or see any specialists? Pay attention to how much those services will cost, as well as whether or not they will be subject to a deductible. Try to estimate how many doctor visits you will have in a year and add that to the cost of the premium to see what you'll really be out. If your insurance denies something, don't just accept it as the final word. Read the denial letter. Are you being denied because they want you to try something else first? Talk to your doctor and ask if that service is a good option for your condition. If it is, great, you'll probably save some money going that route versus whatever the doc originally ordered. And if it doesn't work, you're now in a better position to get whatever you originally asked for. If your doc doesn't think it would be good for you, then you have very good grounds for filing an appeal. Appeals are not difficult, and it is your right to file one. The denial letter will tell you where to send it. They may or may not have a form for you to use. It's better if your doctor will do it on your behalf. But you can do it too. The insurance company can request documentation from your doc. Just say, I see that you want me to try XYZ, Dr. Jones doesn't think I'm a good candidate for that, because insert reasoning here. Please request additional information from them if needed. The insurance company is obligated to have appeals reviewed by someone different than the first review. They may see something different or have a different interpretation of the policy than the first reviewer. In my experience, only about 5 of denials are ever appealed, but they are successful around 40 to 50 of the time. Also, if something is appealed and overturned enough times, the insurance company may change their policy as a result. I forgot to mention my best tip. If you feel like you're getting the runaround from your insurance company, or they're not paying something that seems like it should be covered, reach out to your state's insurance department. Inquiries that come from the office that regulates us and has the power to shut us down are taken very seriously, and we are obligated to respond in a timely manner. Lots of people like to think that threatening to sue will scare us. Letters from lawyers are not handled any differently than letters from doctors, except that you create the added step of it going through a legal department. ODOH. Inquiries from the ID get walked from department to department, and we have a hope that all our ducks are in a row or we'll be screwed. I used this knowledge to my benefit when I was in a car wreck many years ago. The other driver's insurance was giving me a lowball offer, trying to use cars that weren't as loaded as mine to determine the value. The lady was also being super rude to me. All I had to do was tell them I'd spoken to the ID and quote the verbiage I was provided, and her tune changed immediately and drastically. I suddenly had a much more reasonable offer on my car, and her attitude changed from outright rudeness to only slightly snotty. Edited to add thank you for my first award, kind stranger. Story 26. Most lawsuits are total bullshit and settle out of court. If you're sued, the worst thing you should do is ignore it. Try to hire a lawyer. If you can't afford one, file a pro se answer and reach out to the lawyers to discuss resolution. Most lawyers are very friendly and honestly want to resolve matters for their clients. A phone call and a polite conversation can go a long way toward resolving a suit. Story 27. Brush twice daily. It is the cheapest way to save on expensive dental treatments. Learn how to brush the proper way. Usually the way we brush our teeth has a saw-to-a-tree-like effect on our teeth, without going much into detail. Here is a video to help use a soft toothbrush. Home whitening kits are most probably deleterious to teeth. Natural tooth color isn't the same as the Hollywood white you see on TV. Stop using your teeth as can openers, nail cutters, or even to break open walnuts or any nuts for that matter. Toothpaste claiming to whiten your teeth have abrasive 7-to-1 that claim they don't, so you're better off without using them. Most people in the first world don't know this, but there's a thing called miswak. It's a twig of Salvidora persica, tree meant to clean teeth. It has been used for centuries, and the claims are that it's highly beneficial to teeth. So even if you don't believe it, there is no harm in trying it. It is really cheap here in Pakistan and easily available. Story 28. Kids with serious behavioral issues aren't just little. They're little kids who've most likely lived through trauma you've never even dreamed of. I'm a child and youth care worker. Story 29. If you have problems with a computer, please reboot before asking for help. And don't lie about rebooting. It completely confuses the text to the point where, even if you say you rebooted, I won't believe you and I will do it again. Pain in my. Story 30. If an electrical line falls onto your car, stay in it. If you can't stay in it, jump out. Do not step out, then don't walk or run away. Shuffle your feet. Story 31. Trucker here. I know we're bigger, bulkier, and slower than you guys in your cars. We don't want to be. We take longer and more room to make turns. We're also subjected to fucking more rules than you guys are. Even in our own personal vehicles, just give some space. We'll be out of your hair quickly enough, and we can both get back to our respective business. Story 32. Be conscious about how you hold your phone. Many young people are showing up to hand therapy with complaints about joint pain in fingers and thumb. Hand health is so important, especially because later in life, there are even more debilitating factors like arthritis or trigger finger, etc. Story 33. I currently work at a potato warehouse in Idaho. When you buy the Idahoan brand of instant mashed potatoes, all of the potato flakes are just our old bad out-of-grade potatoes that they bake and turn into the flakes. Also the same way with Lay's potato chips. Edit 1. Thank you all who have upvoted my comment. This is my highest upvoted comment ever on here. Story 34. Washing meat is more dangerous than not washing it. Washing meat can contaminate your entire sink and the things around it, and putting washed meat straight into hot oil can cause the oil to spit and burn you, or worse, a quick spreading fire. Also, washing supermarket decent butcher quality or higher meat can result in a loss of texture and flavor. Any reputable restaurant does not wash their meat since there is almost no benefit to doing so. Fish is the same. If it has been descaled and washed already, you do not need to wash it again unless it wasn't descaled properly. Always pat your fish dry before frying it. Story 35. If you study languages and want to improve your listening skills, you should practice with different varieties of a language because listening to a harder accent, G, Scottish English, will make you understand easier accents, E, G, Standard American better. Story 36. Funeral director Rummelmer here. If you have an older or sick relative, try taking a peek at the sorts of things you'll need to do if they pass away. Certain states have different regulations, but most areas of the U.S. are relatively standard. Also, try and see what sort of things are involved with the type of disposition you're looking for. Many families are blindsided by having to purchase an outer burial container in addition to a casket for burial. For example, having some form of plan and or prep done while your loved one is still alive can drastically help with the process that happens afterwards. If you need help, you can always call your local funeral home to ask questions. Their phone lines are almost always open 247, but you should stick to calling within business hours for any non-urgent matters. Story 37. A therapist. My two would have to be, you cannot hold other people to the same standard you hold yourself. People can't read your mind. Talk and listen when people talk to you. Story 38. Credit analyst here. Few pointers for people. USA debts fall off your credit report. After 7 years, pay off your debt. It does, in fact, increase your credit score. Keep your overall credit card usage under 35 at all times. If you do have debt, do not be afraid to negotiate the total debt amount. They will almost always take 50 of the total debt if you have it in full, and it's been transferred to a third-party collection company. Nobody in the credit world gives about bad medical debts or student loan debts when judging for creditworthiness. Everyone in USA has them. Oldest trade line and 100 on-time payments are the two biggest things that define your credit score. If you're just starting to build credit, secured cards are the best way to do so. Usually minimum 200 down, and they use that as your credit limit. Just use it for gas, then pay it off immediately to keep it from closing due to inactivity, and it will do the rest for your credit. Story 39. I work in cancer research, and I have to say, regular people shouldn't give money to charities that fund research for cancer or heart disease or whatever else. There's millions and millions of dollars being constantly funneled into every avenue looking for cures to these things. Pharmaceutical companies really don't need the assist, especially considering they're a business trying to make a profit on this stuff. I'm all for philanthropy and charity, and if you want to donate, I would strongly suggest finding a smaller nonprofit, perhaps one that helps with early screening or getting people to hospitals or helping disadvantaged people with health problems pay their bills. But don't throw money at a huge hospital or billion-dollar health nonprofit. It just won't go nearly as far as it could otherwise. Story 40. Over-the-counter medicine or vitamin bottles with child-resistant caps can be easily removed using a straight edge of a table or countertop, revealing an easy-to-open screw cap. YouTube video. Story 41. Farmer here. Both organic and conventional, nearly every piece of produce or fruit comes from the same fields, whether it has an organic sticker or not. Just a scheme to raise prices. Story 42. When sending a calendar invite out using Outlook to uncheck the request responses option, you will no longer get pinged with all the accepted emails. Story 43. Although it may seem pointless in the long run, engaging in aerobic exercise as little as once a month is better than not doing it at all. I'm in the military, and I've heard many excuses over the years when people fail their annual physical fitness test. I was too busy to go to the gym is the most common excuse. Look, I get that we all have busy lives, but if you can't get to the gym once a month, you need better time management. Story 44. When you get a new home computer, create one account with Admin Access Superman and another account with just regular access Clark Kent. Use it daily as Clark Kent, reserving Superman for things like installing new software or devices. It may be a bit of upfront work, but it will make your computer much more resistant to hacks and malware. I wish OS vendors factored this into the initial first power-up scripts. Story 45. If the police in the U.S. have an encounter with you, meaning they stop and ask you a bunch of questions, identify yourself, and ask if you're free to go. If they say yes, leave. If they say no, that triggers your right to an attorney, because what you have then is an interrogation. Stop talking and ask for an attorney. Police do not have conversations. They look for evidence, which is, of course, their job. Also, police are like vampires. They can't come into your home unless you invite them. Story 46. Function within your circadian rhythm. 1. Insulin is circadian. Eating during a window of greater than 9 hours significantly increases your chance of heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. 2. The majority of people do not function well on less than 6 hours of sleep. While there are individuals with shorter circadian rhythms, Around 90 of individuals do not fall in this category. Not getting enough sleep can lead to depression, weight gain, cognitive loss, etc. 3. Light, especially blue light that is from screens, computer, phone, TV, suppresses melatonin, altering and shifting your natural cycle. 4. Eating late at night affects your sleep cycle. Food and light are some of the strongest signals that shift your circadian rhythm. This not only can force your body to produce insulin when drivers are trying to dampen the production, but also negatively affects the quality of sleep you will get. 5. Stick to a routine as much as possible. Shift workers have a 35% higher cancer rate than non-shift workers. If you are nights a few days a week and off other days, stick to a night schedule as much as possible. The constant shifting of your circadian rhythm is disastrous for physical and mental health. Story 47 works as a graphic designer. We can do magic with the trusty Photoshop, but that doesn't mean we can do it in 1 second. Also, advertising is basically doublespeak and rephrasing words to stretch the truth to sell. So be discerning about shiny graphics, read the small print and labels. Story 48, if you're building, altering, extending your home, go to a professional designer and ask them to design and advise on how to coordinate the work. It will save you much of the hassle, cost, and the issues you would have by trying to manage things you don't have experience with by yourself. I am now in the process of qualifying as an architect, and I wish I was at this point in my life when my parents were building our house 15 years ago. It would have been so much easier for them. Story 49, whatever the issue with your computer is, it should be gone after a reboot edit. I don't think it works for cracked screens. Give it a try and let me know how it goes. Story 50, if you're painting, you can fill the brush or roller cover with paint, then wrap it in plastic and put it in the freezer. It can last a week as long as it's sealed tight. Story 51 AM, employed in routine environmental chemistry microbiology testing. Most household cleaners are composed of bleach, vinegar, or hydrogen peroxide. With a bunch of fillers thrown in, it's quite a bit cheaper to just have the base ingredient on hand. Also, baking soda is a great scouring agent and stain lifter. A lot of troubleshooting can be done by either reading the manual or Googling. If someone is telling you some routine process isn't working, there's a good chance they aren't following directions accurately or haven't given you the correct information. There are best practices for lots of processes in your life, and while there may not always be a direct explanation for why it works, there will be loads of anecdotal data pointing to what doesn't work. Just because somebody doesn't think it's logical for A to cause B doesn't mean that it is impossible. Lots of junior scientists fall into this gap. Just because you're unable to detect the difference of postulate a testable theory between two practices does not mean there is no difference in the effect between those two practices. Story 52, don't with a closing elevator door. Don't even hold them open for others unless you're using the door open button. I had my mechanic put an elevator on independent mode, and he was facing me while pushing the floor button. Some lady sticks her whole arm inside to stop the door, and if I hadn't seen it, she would have been pulled up and lost her arm. On independent mode, the electric eye is overridden and won't reopen. Also, elevators won't fall downwards. It would be an uncomfortable ride to the top floor. It's highly unlikely that would happen, but it's possible. Story 53, if you're having a fence done with steel square tubing, do your homework on who you hire. I'm in the steel industry, and a huge part of our business are guys who fabricate, assemble, and install steel fences. There are a lot of shitty people out there, and if they do a garbage job or leave it unfinished, there is very little you can do about it. Story 54, where exactly do you are right now? Where are you? I'm at home, and I know my address. Are you at work? Know the address, the suite number, your office number. When you're at the store, know the intersection or major landmark. Safeway at 72nd and Federal, Target at Colorado Mills, etc. When you're on the road, know what street you're on and which direction you're going. On a hike, know which trail you're on. Police, fire, and EMS can only help you if they can find you. Story 55, your signs, flyers, ads, websites, and every other promotional material needs something that designers call white space. It's blank areas to make the ad look less confusing. Otherwise, your promotion just looks like visual static. Photos can count as white space too, but only if they have large sections of solid colors, i.e., the sky, walls, or a non-patterned shirt. Any area where the eyes can rest for a moment. Also, don't use Comic Sans. It's not a bad font per se, but it has a shitty reputation because people have used this playful, childlike font in so many inappropriate situations. Funerals, law firms, domestic violence crisis flyers, police notices about rape, and so many more places where it is absolutely inappropriate to make it look like a child wrote it. Because of this abuse, you can't even use it in actual child-related situations without making millennials cringe. Yes, you're losing business if you use this. For every boomer who compliments you on your font choice, Half a dozen millennials have decided that you clearly don't care about your business because it's just a childish hobby to you, and will choose a company that's professional instead. There are other playful, handwritten fonts that you can use if you feel whimsical. And if you're using it for dyslexics, there are better fonts for dyslexics that don't treat them like idiot children who need a font for babies to digest language. Also, stop using papyrus. Evangelical churches abuse it so much that you might as well slap a cross and a quote from Proverbs your ad to complete the aesthetic. And please stop asking us to make something pop. Do you want a brighter color, bolder text? Do you want it to look 3D? You'll know it when I see it. Just means it'll charge you for the extra time I spent drafting up half a dozen versions that you're going to reject because I'm not psychic and can't read your mind. Story 56, Retired Cop. Here, always carry prescriptions in their original bottles, or at least with the paper script printout from the pharmacy. Anything less is at least a misdemeanor, but for many medications, every pill is a felony. Never ever carry your social security card in your wallet. Lock every door and never ever leave anything of value anywhere that's not locked up, and a locked car doesn't count if you leave anything inside your car. Kiss it goodbye. I don't care how safe your neighborhood is, lock your doors. Don't text and drive or drink and drive. Ever. It's not worth having me come to your loved one's door to tell them you killed someone or are, yourself, dead, and for the love of God, turn signals. Story 57, Server Bartender. Here, food safety. Am always amazed, disgusted at people using the same cutting boards and knives for meat and produce, not knowing how to store food in the fridge, proper temperatures, etc. And no one washes their hands enough. I just re-upped my food handler license, and a couple new servers were sitting there slack-jawed because they simply had no idea. It should be taught in schools, in my opinion. Story 58, Former Communications Coordinator, Public Relations Specialist. Make friend with the secretary over the phone, or make sure to show up to wherever in person. It is very easy for people to ignore your problems over an email or a phone. If you show up in person, you're 1000x more likely to get the issue resolved. Story 59, keep an eye on your withholdings from your paychecks. More withholdings means you keep more of your paycheck each time, but if you don't actually have those 9 kids, you'll be paying it back in April. To tack on about taxes, your refund is already your money. The government is just paying it back. It's an interest-free loan for them. Ideally, you want zero refund, and to pay nothing in April means it didn't give extra cash to the government, but still paid all your taxes.